Hey there. So today we're going to look at a couple of options if you're interested in buying a RX7 version kit. This is just a sample, of course. There are a lot of kits out there based on the RX7 and its variations. We're going to look at the history of each kit, pricing and availability, contents, of course, and at the end, conclusion, and what my recommendation is. So let's go. So this is the Aoshima, I guess, RX7 based race car made by Fujimi. This kit was launched in 2006 and it saw reboxing in 2009, and I think it's still being produced to this day in 2025. It is actually based on an older model, the standard RX7 launched by Fujimi in 1999. So this kit sells for below 30 euros. It's usually in the high 20s, I would say. There is some stock of it out there and it is somewhat in demand. So for the contents of the kit, this is not a very complex kit. It has a decent amount of parts. It has some extra parts because it's part of the RX7 family from Fujimi, which means you'll see some extra parts in here that you might need to discard when building this version. The quality is very good. I don't see any flash. Plastic looks pretty good. Yeah, there is some small flash here and there, especially with the black sprues, but all in all, it's not too bad. So a common complaint with these kits is that they don't have an engine bay. Yeah, they're mostly curbside models. Of course, you can enhance that with some aftermarket parts. Another common thing that people do with these kits is convert them into RC models, especially for drift. As I said, the quality is pretty good. There's some mold lines here and there, some chrome parts that will definitely need to be stripped. It looks more like silver or shiny aluminum. As I said, there are some parts that you're gonna need to discard. Unfortunately, the body comes with tuned parts, so you cannot really build a stock RX7 out of this kit. It already has the aftermarket hood and some other parts, fenders and so on. But you can build a combination or a mixture, Frankenstein, of RX7 versions if you use the parts that it says that you should discard. The manual is pretty good. Instructions, I think, are pretty clear, although it's mostly, oh no, it's translated. Yeah, it's in English. Yeah, not a lot of steps, not a lot of parts. Also looks pretty decent for a beginner. There's some cutting that you need to do, but other than that, yeah, pretty solid. Also, the decals are not very complex, just some numbers, I'm guessing, for the license plate, and yeah, some dashboard stuff. Not too crazy. Very good quality decals. So this is the Aoshima Mazda Speed GTC concept. This was released in 1999. And it saw a few re-releases, repackaging, and some new parts up until 2025 when it got a new box, basically. So this kit is also based on the standard RX7, which was launched. The kit version, of course, was launched in 1992 by Aoshima. So this kit goes for a bit more than the Fujimi kit. It's around 30 to 40 euros. There is less stock of it from what I've noticed, and therefore it's somewhat in more demand. So for the contents of the kit, same story here. It's not a very complex kit. Again, curbside model. This looks to be mostly a standard RX7 body, which means you can also build that, or a different version of it. Maybe, as I said, with the other kit, do a Frankenstein of some parts that come with this kit. The quality looks to be a bit softer. There are definitely some panel lines here that could use some scribing, but it's overall good. Here we have the glass parts. They look pretty good. No flash, no issues. Plastic is of good quality. Two types of wheels here. I guess you can choose to use the base rims for RX7 or these custom ones. Some interior parts. Again, the quality is pretty good. No major issues. This is not a very old kit, so I expect the quality to be pretty good. Now this is where we come to the custom parts. You have the side splitters and front bumper, rear bumper. That must be added to the kit. Pretty small decal, not a lot. I guess you can choose to use it if you want or not. So the instruction manual is pretty much what you would expect. This one is in full Japanese, which means I don't understand any of it, but it looks pretty straightforward. As I said, not a very complex kit. I think it's pretty understandable what you have to do. There's not much cutting involved here. Looks like you just place the parts on top of the existing kit, and that's it. It shows here what parts to discard or not use, basically. In conclusion, these kits are both great kits if you're a fan of the RX7. Maybe like me, you're not a huge fan of the base RX7 and you want something that has a bit more spice. These are great for that. These are also great for beginners. From what I've read online, both kits have minimal complaints, pretty easy to build, pretty fun, great outcome. So yeah. These are also great if you want to do an RC conversion. If you either have a base RC car, like a Tamiya RC, or maybe you want to build your own. These are great for that. They make great RC car models for drifting and so on. So that's it for this this review. For the tip of the day, I would like to talk a bit about paint stripping. I've had some experience recently with not so great primer, not so great paint, and I had to strip a couple of models. So my experience with that is that I first tried IPA, isopropyl alcohol, 99%. Basically, what I recommend is first try IPA. It's the less riskier option out of all the substances that I've tried. So if that doesn't work, maybe leave it for a few days. Submerge the whole kit in IPA and leave it for a few days. If nothing happens after a day or two, maybe get a toothbrush and try to remove gently the paint from the kit. If IPA doesn't work, I would go then to Dettol. Dettol is a cleaner. I think it's found everywhere. There are a couple of versions of it. I use the blue one. that is a stronger option and usually either completely removes paint from a kit, either it does nothing. And what I noticed is that IPA works best with acrylics. It will remove them immediately, while it does work with lacquer or enamel paint as well, or primers. That might take a while. Dettol I found might not work at all with lacquer-based paints or primers. Another option for stripping paint or primer is turpentine, although you have to be very careful with that because it can warp the plastic. So IPA and Dettol and other options are a bit safer. Turpentine or acetone definitely affect the plastic, and you can brush it on and maybe wipe the paint off, but it comes with the risk that you might damage the plastic. Another great option, but it's more, how should I say, it's harder to dispose of it. It's brake fluid. I tried, as a last resort, I bought a bottle of brake fluid, and it did work eventually. It did strip really hard set lacquer primer, but use that as a last resort because it's highly toxic for the environment. You need to dispose of it properly. Try to reuse it as much as possible, obviously, but that usually does the trick. I don't think it's both safe for the plastic and it does the trick in most cases with most types of paint. So that's it for the tip. First, try IPA. If IPA doesn't work, try Dettol. If Dettol doesn't work, go for brake fluid. There are other substances that I haven't tried. I would not recommend turpentine or acetone because they will deform plastic. So use those only in extreme cases where you want to brush it on, and maybe you'll have success that way. Okay, so thanks. Bye.